So welcome Razia Hadait MBE to Diaspora Voices.
Hi,
Hi,
nice to be on the show. Thank you for having me.
you're welcome. So are you getting used to your title,
Uh,
MBE?
yes, kind of, because I have to keep on reminding myself. And yeah, then they say, I think we went to a meeting, and one of my colleagues that was there, and he was saying, oh, she doesn't go a day without telling anyone that she's got the MBE. And I was saying, well, it's different for you because he's got an MBE as well, Ashfaq, for Kick It Pathways to Recovery. And I said that because the guys in Sparkbrook there's quite a few of them that got the MBE, but women are not recognized for their community work. And for me, being from a Kashmiri and a Pakistani background and having an MBE in Sparkbrook, I'm the first female. So I think it holds a bit more value, especially for females who feel that they can't achieve anything. And I'm, happy to be a role model and someone that gives the confidence to other women to take those steps, especially in community work, because it's not easy.
No, no. Well, you held a celebration recently, quite rightly, to share your award with your friends and family and work colleagues. And there were a number of people who spoke about your work. And Raja Amin, one of your mentors, who is himself an MBE, described you as a leader. And another person, he was a prison imam, he said the following words: what Razia does, the passion she shows in her work, I can't put it into words. First time she came into our prison, I could see she had the desire and the ability to make a difference. Some people are just words, but not Razia. With her, action always follows. And a local sergeant had said, you make my job so much easier in the work we're trying to do in the community with community-based policing. Without people such as yourself, who are passionate about this area, who love their work as you do, and have the networks that you have created, our job, he said, would be impossible. So thank you. And I also said a few words that you give, especially the women in our community, a chance to shine and make a difference. And you're a pioneer and a role model. We will, in due course, hear about your work, but just to start off, just give us a little background information about your Kashmiri connection.
Yeah, okay. I'm actually born from. I was born in Birmingham myself, and my husband, he's from Pakistan. He's from Kashmir side, and we live in a small village in Machari. So when and my grandparents, obviously, and my parents, who are also now in the UK, but my grandparents have passed away. When when the India and they split from Pakistan and Kashmir, we still stayed where we are, so we didn't move. So from our history, we've been there for over 200 years. So we've always been in our village. It is a beautiful village, and I've been there loads of times. And so I took a lot of interest in Kashmir and Pakistan. Really, once I went to obviously to get married. Well, I got married in this country. My husband came from Pakistan. It was when I'd done one of my assignments, and they asked me to write on a leader. And I spoke to my mentor, and obviously you look at the common ones that they gave a list of. And he said, oh, why do you want to do those? He goes, why don't you do Qaid Azam, Pakistani leader? So I thought, yeah, actually, that would be a good one. It wasn't on the list. They said we could choose our own. So I started doing a lot of research, and that made me more interested in the history and the background of Pakistan and how we got our independence and everything. So that's where my passion about my own back home in the country became more interesting to me.
Yes, thank you. Let's focus on your work, your current work. So, what is Hamaya Haven?
Hamaya Haven is a community interest company, and we're an organization, and that work with Black and Asian ethnic minorities. We support families who have someone or a loved one in prison or in custody. Recently, we're also trying to target work with the police, is to work with the young people who are actually at risk on antisocial behavior. So they're at high risk of going into prison. And I've recently seen, like all the youth issues that we're having, like drugs, crime, especially like only a couple of days ago in Smalley, there was a shooting where 2 lads got shot and one died. But it's just like becoming normal. And those are the kind of scary things. How do we move from this now? Because we've got a lot of knife crime, drugs. It's just really terrible at the moment.
Yes, well, obviously I'm familiar with your work. When I was there recently, I picked up your leaflet about your organization, and in it you list a long number of services you provide: support for families, mentoring, one-to-one support, outreach, work with schools, and the list goes on. How do you manage that? Do you do it on your own, or do you have other people?
No, we've got Soumya, who's a family and engagement worker, and she does a lot of the outreach. So she does the day-to-day phone calls and support they need. We've got Zobia, who's also a director. She does a lot of the website, social media, so that the word gets out about what we're doing and everything that we have done. We have someone who does our admin and finance. It could be volunteers, or we had someone from Kickstart, but his term ended, and we'll probably get someone else. So we get students from university as well. And they actually enjoyed it, because one of the girls that we had, she was really quiet, shy, but she said that we could see her day-to-day confidence was growing as she was working as a volunteer. And so yeah, we do get volunteers. We're looking at someone now in the community who's going to start with us next week. So yeah, we're always open to volunteers, because all the help that we can get here, it helps. Otherwise, it's too much work.
So how long has the organization been in existence?
It's 5 years. I can't believe it, that is 5 years. Do you remember when I rang you up and said, this is what I'm thinking of doing, and can you give me some advice? Do you think it's a good idea? And when I sit back and think 5 years on, that we've done a lot, we've achieved a lot. I'm so proud of what we've achieved as the whole team. Without my team, it's not just me, it's the whole team that we work together. I've got a brilliant team, and also we were fortunate to secure funding from reaching communities with people saying that you're not going to be able to do it. So I thought, I believe that there's always a yes or a no. There's no maybe. Maybe you'll get the funding. It's either a yes or a no. So it's not going to hurt to try. So the application took over a year, because we had to go back and forth. And I prefer to have a meeting face-to-face than email, because you can't come across as you would verbally than to an email. And I think for us, we were really fortunate to secure that funding just before the lockdown, from COVID-19. And I don't know where we would be if we didn't secure the funding and COVID kicked in. I think we would have been a different story. But I know COVID was not a nice time for people, but for us, funding-wise, we really benefited, because we were able to support more families. And also, in COVID, all the visits were stopped completely. So prisoners didn't have any visit at all. They were locked in their cells for 23 and a half hours, and they're only selected certain time, half an hour they can go and have a shower and stuff, because some prisons have showers in the cells and a lot of them don't. And I think what the prisons also learned, they learned a new way of dealing with something. Probably some of them done it really quick. Some of them didn't use the video calls that were able to visit through, like doing Zoom calls with the families, so which they call the purple visits. So that's what they made changes to. So they made a lot of changes as well. And I think also what we were speaking to Imam Jay, the one who came to our event, what they were saying is that, a lot of people lost families while they're in prison from death to COVID. So they're able to let them see the family member before, or they couldn't attend the funerals physically, but they could on Zoom. So those were the lot of changes that happened within the prison as well. And I think the families found it really hard. Obviously, lockdown for us was difficult with mental health and well-being, but you can imagine what it was like for the prisoner, who was not even allowed out, not allowed to socialize within themselves. So they had no social activities, no nothing. The mental health and well-being is quite high in prison. Suicide rates are really high. Self-harming is really high. And I know people think that, they're having a holiday camp there and having this, but I've been inside quite a few prisons as a visitor. It's not a nice area to be in, to be honest. It's just awful. And I can understand why people come out with mental health issues. And one of the things we're going to look at now as well is, when they come out, if they got long term, say like 5 years plus, when they come out, the family have moved on for 5 years, but they've come out, they're thinking, everything's back normal where it was. The kids have grown up, your siblings have grown up. If you're the husband, you want to take over, but the female's been taken over for the years you were in, and it's very difficult for the family unit to get back together. So those are the kind of issues that we're going to look into, because our focus is families, and we didn't want to try to do too many different things, because then you can't really do your work well in one topic. So I think those are some of the issues that most of our families that we started supporting when we set Hamaya Haven up were long term. So we've only had one person that's come out, and one only had a short term, like 6 weeks. So it didn't really make much of an impact, but we haven't really seen anyone come out. So so we're going to see. And also a lot of the cases over COVID were delayed. So if someone was in remand, whether he was guilty or not guilty, they spent over a year before the court cases are being heard. And when they started opening the courts, they were dealing with murder, crimes, and those manslaughter. So all the little petty crimes got left behind. So so people have spent a lot of time waiting. So it's the impact on the family is so bad that we've got one family working with now, and I think they've moved their case now till September, and I think he went in early beginning of the year. So they're like, where you normally 6 months maximum wait that you got to get the court cases in and resolved, but these are going on for over a year.
You told us that you've been in existence 5 years, and I remember some of those earlier conversations. Mm-hmm. Just for our viewers, just tell us why you decided to focus on the families of those affected by prison.
I think
why this particular area of need and not something else?
I think what happened is we were supporting someone in the family at the time, and this is like what happened is a daily normal day. You got up, everyone's gone to work, they're gone to college, gone to do what they want to do, and there was an incident, and the family's son was arrested and taken into hospital. So because it was they're looking at it on the criminal side, they wouldn't let anyone visit in the hospital. So he had to go through the operation, and the family still couldn't see him. And they took him to court after 2 days, and they remanded him. So for the family, it was trauma, shock, what's going on. They didn't even know if their son had died in the car accident. Then they remanded him, and And the mom, when I spoke to her and she was crying, and I said, oh, what did they say about the visits? And she said, they said you have to book it via email. And she says, I don't know how to use an email. How am I going to book a visit? So that made me think that, that how many people are in that situation that can't read and write and can't use the internet or social, the computers, and they don't have any knowledge of it. So how are they going to do it? So I realized there's no one else doing this service, and there's a gap in the community for that, for those kind of services. And it took me about 6 months. I wanted to do something for myself, set up an organization after I was made redundant, and I didn't want to work for someone else. If I had to look for funding to secure my own job, I must do my own. That's what made me decide to do it. And I wanted to do the prison work, but I was thinking that, how are we going to get accepted by the community? Is it a good thing? So obviously, like yourself, I spoke to you, spoke to Arif, spoke to quite a few other people before I stepped into that, I would say, market. But when I went in, it was then again when we were making our first leaflet, we were thinking that, should we put this on it? Should we put prison on it? Should we let people know that we're actually working with prisoners or prisons?
Yes.
And we thought, so we had to think about a lot of things, and 6 months went down the line, and then we were thinking, should we put handcuffs, on our leaflet? And then we decided, no, let's go and let's put prison on it. Let's put handcuffs on it so people know what we're doing. And we had funding from Awards for All, and we've done a lot of workshops around community settings to tell them what we're doing. And because I was previously working in the community, which I have done now for over 24 years, I didn't have to go on network to find people. I had to just go and tell the same people that already knew that this is what I want to do. This is what we're doing. So that's what made us do it. We found that there was a need in the community, and obviously the stats are showing that the Muslim community, especially the Pakistani and Kashmiri, are going up. The numbers are going up where the other numbers are going down. And most of our clients are females. They have language barriers. Yeah. So they can't read and write. They don't know how to navigate the criminal justice system. They don't know how to book visits. They think they can drive up and take clothes and this, and go in, but it's not like that. So we have to remind them, you can't do that. You have to follow the protocol. And one thing that we have to always remind them, that we don't have authority over the prisons. We're here to support you. So that sometimes they do expect a lot from us. Like, you could ring the prison and tell them to do this and do this. And one thing we also understand that, the prisoner themselves, they tell a lot of stuff to the families that are not necessarily true. So we have to be careful how we either email the prison or speak to the prison, that we have to say that we've been told by the family that this is what's happening. Then they clarify things. So there is a lot of that stuff going on as well.
Yes, I read somewhere that there is a disproportionate presence of Muslims, which is probably mainly Pakistani, Kashmiri community in the prison service. I think I'm not sure what the current statistics are, but some time ago it was 16% in the prison, and with a large Muslim presence in Birmingham area where you are based. That must mean quite a lot of people from within the Pakistani Kashmiri community who are affected by prison.
Yeah, there is. And we wrote it on we just done our evaluation. I think we put down, I think you're right, it's 16%, but overall it's double compared to the community that we've got from the Kashmiri and Pakistani background in England and Wales, not just Birmingham. I know Birmingham is the highest, but yeah, we're way higher than the average nationally, to be fair. And I can't see how we're going to resolve this, because this has been brain boggling for me over the last few weeks. I've been thinking, because we've seen a lot of kids with machetes that they walk around with it in the day like it's nothing. The gun crime, you can see what's happening in Alam Rock, the videos that are going around, with the attacks are being made on people in kind of broad daylight or set up. I don't know where have everyone gone wrong. From one of the things that comes to my mind, that when we were younger, if we were brought up by the family, not just your parents. So if your grandfather or grandmother or your chacha or anyone else said anything to you, your parents wouldn't say that. Why did you say that to my child? But whereas if you say something now to another person's child, they jump down your throat. So basically, that's where it's broken, isn't it? So people know now that no one's going to tell or no one's going to say anything. We're at a scary time, I think, at the moment, and I think something really seriously needs to be done.
Yes, I remember a time, certainly, when I was younger, if you had any dealing with the police, or especially if the police came to your house, it was seen as a shame. And you were embarrassed that people might see the police coming to your house, because it was rare for that to happen in those days. How things have changed.
I think but some of it is still similar, because some families who have the police at their door, or their kids have got arrested or gone into prison, they don't tell neighbors. If they don't know, they'll say they're gone abroad, they're gone to Pakistan, or they're somewhere else, they're doing a job out of Birmingham, and they don't tell. Some people don't know. We had one lady, that client we were supporting, and her husband was in prison, and she said even 3 years down the line, she didn't tell her family. So when she went to the job center, because obviously she had to sign on because he wasn't around, and she'll tell him she's going to the doctor or something. And it was 3 years, she still didn't tell anyone. And I think one of the things that we have, it's not that high, but one of the things we're seeing now, that when someone goes into prison, divorces are happening because people don't want to live with that partner, or for whatever reasons, or whatever the crime they committed. So we are starting to see, we've got one case, it's a long-term one, but I spoke to the mom a week ago actually, and he's going to be coming out soon, but his wife has divorced him while he was in prison. The other one that we were dealing with, she also divorced him. So I think it's the opposite. So the shame and the stigma and all that, they're rather just split. So we'll be seeing more divorce cases through that as well.
Sure. Okay. I'm interested to learn what you were doing before Hamaya Haven, because it may be you were doing similar work. So just give us a bit of background on the type of work you've done before you set up Hamaya Haven.
Before the last job before Hamaya Haven, I was the centre manager for Small East Community Forum.
Okay.
I was there for about 2.5 years. I was made redundant from there, for that was my last stepping stone of working for someone. And prior to that, I've always done a lot of work in the community in different roles. So sorry, I don't know if there's a connection. So sorry, I'll go back to where I was.
Yes.
Yes, I worked for Small East Community Forum. And then when I first went into the community work, I started the Sparkbrook Neighbourhood Forum, and I was the first Asian female then to be a part of a forum, especially in Sparkbrook. And I became the chair of that forum, and it was a forum out of 60 forums in Birmingham. And then I've done a lot of work in different roles. And one of the roles that I took was working with women from refugees and asylum seekers in the Brandwood Board with Alan's Croft project. It was totally different area. It's the first time I kind of went out of my area, because I'd done a lot of work in Sparkbrook. I feel that was a good experience for me, because that's what taught me to grow and learn a lot, being in a different environment and not being I was comfortable in Sparkbrook, knowing everyone that I was working with. So when I was made redundant, after that, I did a lot of workshops on child sexual exploitation, a lot of workshops on grooming, within the Asian community where people wouldn't talk about it. So I'd done it with Shaista Goir. We've done it together. And from then on, I thought that there's a lot of other organizations doing a lot of domestic work and honor-based violence and forced marriages. And I didn't want to go into something that someone else was already doing. So that's why I picked the topic that I'd done. I don't regret it for 1 minute when I started this.
So you touched on a number of what are seen as sensitive areas, taboo areas, things we don't talk about. What advice would you give to others, especially women in our community, who may want to do similar things?
I would just say, just to do it, because, when they used to tell me that, I used to remember a lot of the things, because, when I first started in the community, you have to do a lot of evening meetings. And for an Asian female, I felt it was really difficult because you're expected to be at home and do the food and everything, and you're at a meeting, you don't get back till 9 o'clock. There used to be a lot of arguments and saying that why can't you get a normal job? Why are you out? And they couldn't understand that community because the officers, because sorry, I don't know if it's my internet or something. Can you hear me?
Never mind. We will try and deal with it.
All right, okay. I'm just gonna. You'll have to remind me where I was then.
Yeah, I think we were talking about advice to
okay.
women.
Yeah, so I used to get told off a lot from my husband and my mom. Why can't you do a normal 9 to 5 job? What's this job being at evening out all the time? So I think I had when I first started, obviously being the first Asian female to be actually involved in Sparkbrook, I used to get invited to a lot of meetings and stuff because they wanted an Asian female. They wanted to show that they're working with doing the multicultural thing, and I found it really hard to continue. I did it for about, I don't know how many years, and then I had my daughter. Then I couldn't really, when she was ready for school age, I couldn't really do a lot of evenings because I had to get her, in bed in time and everything. So yeah, I had to give up a lot of the stuff. So when Zobia went back to school, and then I started picking up a lot of it again. And I actually started working part-time and doing voluntary work. So I've done it for so long, and I don't think I could work anywhere. I couldn't just sit 9 to 5 and work in an office and do nothing. The community, I learned a lot, and you learn about where the funding comes from, who pays when you pay your council tax, where it's being spent, and who pays for the police. Because these things, we don't think about it, do we? We don't think who's paying for the bin men to come around and collect your bin, and or who's responsible for the roads and all that. It was only when I joined the forum that I actually realized that, hang on a minute, it's the city council, and it's all our council tax and all this funding. So that's where I've done a lot of learning about how things worked. Otherwise, I would have had no knowledge. All I would have known, go to work. I used to be a bookkeeper before all this.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like when I left school, I was doing bookkeeping. So I was thinking that, you know what, I would never have known.
And have you, in your in the time you have been working, both before Hamaya Haven and now, have you offered advice and guidance to others who want to do similar community work?
Yeah, we always, I do get a lot of people asking me how I set up the CIC and what's involved. And I always tell them, the experiences that we had, through the journey of setting up and the mistakes, because, when you're setting up something new, you're always learning. And there's sometimes you make mistakes on the way. So I always tell them, if you're going to set the organization up, this is what you need to do. And, don't do this because this is not, when you apply for funding, that they need to have 4 people that are not, sorry, 3 that are non-related. So if you got someone that's related, you have to have another person. And then for me, it's always, you have to have that trust in it really with your directors when you set up, because that was one of the issues that when you're ready to set up, that who can I trust and who can I work with. But I'm really blessed, to be honest. I've got a beautiful team around me. I've got really good directors, and I don't think I'd have it any other way.
Now, in an area like Birmingham, I think there are approximately 200,000 Pakistanis, and 3/4 of them are from Kashmir. So that's probably 150,000. So a large community with particular needs, particular ways of responding to the services. There are obviously many service providers that are serving the community. What advice would you give to those organizations who are in the wider Birmingham area to provide a culturally sensitive, culturally competent service to the Pakistani Kashmiri community?
I think it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because obviously most of our clients are from a Kashmiri Pakistani background, and we understand the culture, and we can understand their needs, and we've got like Kick It Pathways to Recovery that does drugs and alcohol, and it has to be culturally sensitive for them to understand how to support the families, because we don't just support the family, because the family comes with baggage as well, and they struggle with their own families and how to deal with things. So I think any other organization needs to look at having someone on board that can give them advice and guidance about having different people on their steering group or their trustees that understand the cultural needs of our community. Because I think that before it used to be that it was anyone randomly doing things and they don't understand our needs. But I think it's really important to have people that understand the cultural needs of the community, so you can support them better.
So you're talking about having staff in the organization who understand the community?
Yes, and speak the language, because we're finding a lot of the generation that we're working with at the moment who've got kids in prison or husbands in prison, majority of them do not speak the language and they can't read and write. So they struggle. So, Soumya, who does our outreach and engagement work, she said that she never spoke Mirpuri as much as she has since she came and worked with us, and it's actually made her fluent in the language herself. And
yes.
Her family was saying, "Oh, we can't believe how much your language is improved." And she goes, "But I use it so much, and never ever use it that much except in the since she's been working here." So
yes.
So we have language barriers, and it's really important that we can deal with the language, because sometimes the family have to come with a child that can speak English and translate to them. But as you see now, a lot of our children now that are growing up, they're not learning their language really. They're just going straight into English. So then that's a barrier for the families as well.
Yeah, and the other area is the decision making. Is it important to have people from within the community that you're serving to be on your board or your committee?
Yes, I think it's important, because we understand the community and we can bring specialism into the organization or any other organization, because like you see, a lot of the police and the other organization, they are police are trying to improve, but when you have trustees and committees that like say for the Ministry of Justice and all that, they're always white people, and there's never ethnic minorities on there, so they don't really they can come up with an idea that this is we'll do, but they don't understand the family's needs. And I think it's important to take say for example, we're talking about the word BAME, so it's Black, Asian, ethnic minorities, but we don't class ourselves as Asian, because originally we're supposed to be like from the Kashmiri background or Pakistani background, so we're kind of forced to use acronyms that are being set by the government. So now I think they want to change it to something else, and we feel that you need to ask the community what do they want to be called.
Yes.
We know people hate the word BAME, but for us, we have to use it for our funding applications.
Yes.
So we're kind of forced into using wording that are set by the government. So I think they need to ask the community what do they feel and what do they think is appropriate, and do it that way. Because if someone asks me what I am, yeah, I'm a Kashmiri Pakistani, but I'm British as well. But I'm not Asian, because what is Asian? So we're labeled. So the labeling needs to be stopped and looked at how they identify people.
Yes. Have you already found that organizations turn to your project, your organization, yourself, your team for advice on how they should respond to the Pakistani Kashmiri community?
Say that again, sorry.
Have you already had requests from other organizations for advice on how they should serve the Pakistani Kashmiri community?
Not really. No, not really.
No.
No, I've just recently we've had a couple of emails, and people are trying to get trustees from the BAME community onto their board so they can be more reflective of the community they're serving. So I've had a few people contact me to see if I'd be interested, so that they're trying to look at they are understanding to be culturally aware and sensitive, that they need to have a wider board with different people from different backgrounds on there. So I think they are trying. It is happening. It's coming now slowly, but it wasn't before at all. It wasn't recognized before, was it really?
I think one of the things I ask people I interview whether they have a favorite book they want to share with us.
Yeah. You know, when I looked at the question previously, and I was talking to Solvi, and I said, you know what, I used to, when I was younger, I used to read a lot of magazines, so I was really interested in magazines. And I said, never ever read a book, because now, since I've done Hamai Haven, all I do is read a lot of reports and research. And then I did read one book, and I thought, you know what, I don't know if it's going to be really an easy one to discuss. It was General Pervez Musharraf's biography that I read.
Okay.
I really found it interesting. It was given to me, that's why I read it. So that's the only book that I really read. And now then my sister gave me one. It's called The Three Sisters. And she said, so I said, I started it, I haven't finished it. So yeah, that was my really only book that I did read.
Yes. Yeah. Well, the reason I asked that question is because people have different interests, but also I'm a strong believer in encouraging reading.
Yeah.
And I think I certainly would like to see more books being read in the community. And
I really do, because I think I end up spending a lot of time, you know, if I'm applying for funding and doing research and reading. So I did a lot of reading on reports that you know, affect with prison and crime and justice and all that. So that's where my focus is, and that's what the reading I do. And I'd always used to think I'd love to read books and, you know, have a book to read, but I never have time. Then my sister gave me one, and I got to chapter 10, and I haven't moved from chapter 10 yet. That was cool.
Yes.
Yeah. So I did read all his book.
Yes. We were talking about the advice you might give to others. Have you offered any advice to the prisons and those who run the prisons about the community that you work with?
No, not yet. I think we're gonna start getting involved, because our dealings at the moment are just with the imams.
Right.
The imams, they kind of know what they're doing anyway, but we just, like when we done our Ramadan packs, and that we had to raise sponsorships and donations from family and friends. It wasn't a funded project we did. It was something that we just done from, from the passion of that we wanted to do. And it was like a sadqa jariyah for my dad, and that I wanted to do something different. So it was challenging. I wanted to do something challenging. So when the prison imam arranged a Zoom meeting and 8 prisons said they were interested, we were thinking, how are we going to achieve this? But it was a really, really good project that we done. But this year we had to downgrade it a bit because of COVID hitting again, and people financially couldn't afford the sponsorship and the donations we got the year before. So hopefully, inshallah, we can. So we haven't really given them advice. I think it takes a while for us to be in a position where they could come to us and ask us. So I think because we've been going 5 years now, we've kind of proven that we're a really good organization and we know what we're doing and we've got the skills. And so hopefully, yeah, because it's like an email I had, and they called me before the show, that because they're looking at my experience and what work we're doing, they want us to come on their trustee. So I think slowly those kind of things will be coming forward, and yeah, and because I got the MBE, so that gives you a leeway as well, extra status.
Okay. So people are.
Not sure what's happening. Not sure what.
So people are showing you some respect because of your MBE.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've had a few emails to join the trustees, so I'm looking forward. That I would like to expand a bit. I've just recently been they set up the forum. Hold on, check the batteries plugged in. Yeah, the forum, they were saying that they're going to we set up the Friends of Farm Park in Sparkbrook.
Yes.
And become a treasurer on there.
Right. Yes.
So yeah, so I'm a treasurer on there at the moment. So that's another task that I got to do. So I'm applying for. I think I've applied for one of it's the MOJ, and they're looking at having people from the community and people who like a forum kind of thing. So they've asked us as well. So I've applied for that one. So
yes, you mentioned a couple of times and that prisons have imams, and I obviously met one of them at your celebration.
Mm-hmm.
Is it normal now for each prison to have an imam?
Yeah, they have a lot of different religions as well. So they have chaplaincy basically for all different religions. And I think in Swinfen Hall, Zobia we interviewed the Imam Jangir because we're doing a heritage project with them, and I think they counted like 8 or 9 different religions at the moment, and they still got more. So they have chaplaincy for each different religion. And I think it's you're talking about maybe in the 60s and whatever, they didn't consider chaplaincy for different religions, so it's a really important part of the prison service now.
Right. Yes, thank you for that. Do you have time for taking a break from work and have hobbies and interests?
My hobbies is just really walking.
Walking.
If I could get any chance to get out and walk, obviously, because I've been because when my husband got ill, we've been regular walking, so that started me back off and walking. I used to go to the gym a lot, but I can't fit the gym in because of work and house commitments. I never get a chance to go to gym. So yeah, walking and being in this sun, that's the best thing at the moment.
Yes, because obviously the kind of work you do is quite involved and involving. It is important to switch off from it. And do you find that walking helps you to switch off from it?
I enjoy my walking.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yes, I gather you've been shortlisted for the National Diversity Awards.
Wasn't expecting it.
That's a big one. I read somewhere that it's out of some 70,000 people. Well done.
70,000 people that made nominations, and I think 100 and I can't remember. I think it was 70 or something that have been shortlisted. So it's people from organizations, some people from superstars like saying what's his name? One of the lady that got the 3 gold medals, Dame something from Birmingham. She's been shortlisted.
Right.
And then Stormzy, because we got a little thing about Stormzy, and he's been shortlisted for something. So yeah, I'm looking forward if I go. Well, we've got tickets to go and meet Stormzy.
Yes.
Yeah, we want him to come and visit Hamai Haven, so that's one of the challenges that I'm going to try to do. So you never know.
Yes. So what does the future hold for you now? You've been doing Hamai Haven for 5 years, and before that you did many other things. What do you think you might be doing in the next 5 years?
Making Hamai Haven bigger.
Right.
Bigger and better, and maybe expand it a bit out to Birmingham and not just be in Birmingham.
Okay.
And leave a legacy behind. That's one of the things I want to do, is to leave a legacy of what I've done with Hamai Haven, and hopefully someone can carry on with that Hamai Haven.
Are there other towns and cities where there may be similar needs?
I think because I got family in Dewsbury, Yorkshire, and I found there's a lot of stuff in the north, and there's not much support down there. So that would be something where I would like to probably progress later on. And also we're looking at expanding a bit in supporting offenders when they come out of prison. So that's something we're looking at as well.
Yes. And are there already projects in other towns and cities that you are in touch with?
The one that we normally keep in touch with is, I don't know if you're probably aware of Sophia Bunsey, that work with the Women in Prison project in Bradford.
Right.
And she does a lot of work with female prisons. And obviously we don't do much with female prisons because they're all out in the north. There's none in West Midlands at all. So yeah, we keep in touch with her. She's really a good role model as well. And she's the first, I think, Pakistani female in Bradford to be deputy lieutenant.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah.
Good. Is there? I've asked all the questions I wanted to. Is there anything else you'd like to share about your work or life in Birmingham?
Well, I think I've covered it, and I'd just like to say that I've lived in Birmingham all my life. I was born and bred in Birmingham. I can't see myself living anywhere else, but it is quite alarming to see how Birmingham is changing, and the way that our Muslim children are into criminality. It's quite scary to see them in high volumes in that journey, and how we're going to change to bring them back to reality. Because what I'm looking at now is where our next generation, the younger generation, half of them are going to be in a graveyard and half of them are going to be in prison. We won't have a generation left if it continues like this. And I think it needs a whole community to get together to resolve this, and it's not one person's job.
Yes, you will know that I have an interest in education, and particularly educational underachievement. And I sometimes wonder whether there is a link between education failure and crime.
Definitely. I think definitely, because that's what, if you look at any research or anything, we are doing it, a lot of these kids don't get past GCSEs. Or it's a really hard one. I think education has got a part of it. And sometimes it's not, because even the rich families or even educated families, because they're so busy, they don't check what the kids are doing, and they can actually get into prison. And sometimes prison is not just generally crime. We had one lady, if I give an example, she was 60 years old, a Pakistani lady. She went to university to pick her daughter up, and she must have just fell asleep a little bit and lost control, and she hit a young lad standing at a bus stop, and he died, and she got a prison sentence. So it wasn't like a crime in that sense, but it was just an act of, bit of, unfortunate driving that someone died, and she had to pay the price for it. So it's not always crime, if that makes sense, but we do need to see what we can, change with our kids.
Yes. Well, for now, I think I want to thank you. We will obviously stay in touch, and maybe we can have a conversation in the future about your work. But for now, I want to thank you for giving us your time. So, Razia Hadait MBE.
Thank you so
much. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Take care.
Bye-bye.